Welcome to Only the Over, episode 3. Welcome back. But obviously, NFL Week 4 has recapped. I'm recording this on Tuesday morning, just after the Monday Night Football games. It was a very interesting slate this weekend. We had a lot of interesting games. I think the NFL is drunk already, and it was just getting done with Week 3, so that's fantastic. And we also had a doubleheader on Monday Night Football, which never happens. So this will be an interesting episode to go through. I am switching up the picks a little bit. After the first two episodes, I'm realizing that maybe I'm setting picks a little bit too early because the spreads change. The lines change as we get closer to the games, obviously. So I will be suggesting picks, and then on the Instagram and also on the YouTube, if you're watching this on YouTube, the short form content will feature the picks. Also, I'll be posting potentially graphics about the picks as well. So, that's how things are going to be moving forward. So now all the picks of interest you see on the bottom of the screen, those will be directly related to the picks that I'm going over with rationale in the current episode that you're watching. So just a slight switch. Anyways, let's get into the surprises of Week 3. I had Week 4 in my notes, but that's wrong. Let's get into the surprises of Week 3, shall we? First off, the Vikings defeated the Texans at home. The Vikings were at home, 34-7. Apparently, Brian Flores is the best defensive coordinator in the NFL. And also, Kevin O'Connell can coach me to pass for 300 yards. So, Sam Darnold ended up having a really efficient game. He went 17 for 28 for 181 and 4 touchdowns. Aaron Jones had an awesome game on the ground, 19 carries for 102 yards, also with 5 receptions, 46 yards, and a receiving touchdown. Justin Jefferson had a great game, 6 receptions for 81 yards and a touchdown, and Jalen Naylor was the other one who had the touchdown, 3 receptions for 31 yards as well. So Sam Darnold is a very good quarterback with a system around him that is able to produce. They have a great running game. They have a great passing game. Kevin O'Connell's just dicing things up, and the Texans really couldn't hang at all. The Texans looked horrible on both sides of the ball. Offensively, C.J. Stroud went 20 for 31 with 215, a touchdown, and 2 picks. Again, that Vikings defense showing up. Cam Akers went 9 carries for 21 yards. Horrible with 1 reception for 8 yards and a touchdown. So really his only production was that 1 reception for 8 yards. Other than that, he averaged under 3 yards a carry, like 2.8, 2.7 yards a carry. So really, really bad game on the ground for them. Overall, for the receiving corps, Stephon Diggs had 10 receptions for 94 yards. Nico Collins had 4 receptions for 86 yards. And Tank Dell had 5 receptions for 62 yards. You honestly see those lines for your top 3 receivers, and you're like, must have been a really good game. But since they couldn't run the ball, they had to pass a lot. 31 passing attempts from C.J. Stroud, also 2 picks. That doesn't help. You maybe take away those turnovers, and the game is different, obviously, but I don't know if it's much different just because the Vikings were firing on all cylinders against the Texans this weekend. Secondly, a huge one for the Panthers. It was fantastic to see. I'd never really want to see a team go, over unless it's the Lions or the Bears. So that's fantastic. But yeah, the Panthers finally put a notch in the win column. Andy Dalton came out and performed. They beat the Raiders 36-22. Another question, is Bryce Young done in Carolina? Should they trade him? Personally, I think trading him right now would be a fantastic idea. Although Andy Dalton, this happens with every NFL team that brings in a quarterback. They have that resurgence. The game after they bring in a quarterback or a new coach, it's always something better. They do amazing, and then we'll see how they do in the next couple games. But anyways, Andy Dalton went 26 for 37 for 319 and 3 tugs. I think those 3 tugs were in the first half. Chuba Hubbard had an amazing game on the ground. 21 carries for 114 yards, also 5 receptions for 55 yards and a receiving touchdown. Miles Sanders had the rushing touchdown, but also went 7 carries for 17 yards, so not the best from him. But overall on the ground, pretty well. Chuba Hubbard finally is able to have a good game. Deontay Johnson went 8 receptions for 122 yards and a touchdown. Xavier Legette went 2 receptions for 42 yards, and Adam Thielen had the other receiving touchdown, but went 3 receptions for 40 yards. So overall, Deontay Johnson is obviously the star in that receiving core, and Chuba Hubbard did amazing on the ground. So that allowed them to just go back and forth, be able to pick and choose what they wanted to. And Andy Dalton is a proven NFL quarterback. It sucks that they didn't go with him right away, but Bryce Young, I mean, you draft him number 1 overall, you kind of have to go with him. You have to give him a decent sample size. But this right here just shows the system is everything. If the system isn't good for the quarterback that you draft, you'll find out really quick. They gave him a great sample size. They gave Bryce Young a great sample size to be able to be able to test him out, and I feel like they're moving on from him when they need to. Sometimes they just throw a rookie quarterback in there, give him 6 games, and say you suck, and then put him on the bench. That just destroys their confidence. At least Bryce Young was able to get whatever it was, 18 or 19 games in, and be able to have a chance to show himself. And unfortunately, it sucks that he hasn't. I don't know what's going on specifically, but that's what it is. Basically, in this game as well, the Raiders looked horrible early, but ended up scoring the majority of their points, 15 of their 22 points in the fourth quarter. Gardner Minshew went 18 for 28 for 214, a touchdown and interception. Aiden O'Connell came in late, went 9 for 12 for 82 yards and a touchdown, so not a bad showing from him coming in late. They didn't really have much on the ground. Zamir White went 10 carries for 34 yards, and Alexander Madison went 3 carries for 7 yards, so not fantastic on the ground for the Raiders. But Alexander Madison did have 3 receptions for 37 yards, but he also did have a rushing touchdown, I forgot to mention there. Trey Tucker was the standout on their receiving core, 7 receptions, 96 yards, and a tug. Jacoby Myers also had 7 receptions and a touchdown, but only for 62 yards. And then 2 other receiving standout names, but not the best performances, went 3 for 41 for Brock Bowers and 4 receptions for 40 yards for Devontae Adams. I think he should move on. That's another guy that should move on from the Raiders. Final surprise of the week. This happened on a Monday night. I think Jaden Daniels has finally showed everyone that he is the real deal, that he's able to stand up to the criticism. The Commanders are getting to 2-1 against the Bengals. They beat the Bengals on Monday Night Football, 38-33 in Cincinnati. So great win for Washington. Jaden Daniels went 21 for 24, 254, 2 passing touchdowns, also 12 carries for 39 yards and a rushing touchdown. So 3 total touchdowns tonight for Jaden Daniels, or last night for Jaden Daniels. Austin Eckler and Brian Robinson Jr. did okay on the ground. Austin Eckler had 3 carries for 35 yards and a touchdown. Brian Robinson Jr. had 16 carries for 33 yards and a touchdown. So the production on the ground for them was good. They scored points, but overall, Austin Eckler did fine. Carrying the ball, he had almost 12 yards per carry, which is great, but Brian Robinson Jr. was questionable on the ground. But when you have a quarterback that is that efficient through the air and also has the dual threat like Jaden Daniels, you really don't need your running backs to perform that well. And you'll see later on in the video or in the podcast that I did bet on Brian Robinson Jr. as my Monday night pick, and it did not go well. In the receiving realm for the Washington Commanders, Terry McLaurin went 4 receptions for 100 yards and a touchdown. Great game from him. Luke McCaffrey out of the slot went 3 receptions for 44 yards, so also very good role-playing game from him. And Zach Ertz, 5 receptions for 38 yards only. Should the Bengals be worried? They're falling to 0-3, and they get 0-3 in their house. That's always an issue. Their defense has not been playing well. Joe Burrow went 29 for 38 for 324 and 3 touchdowns, no turnovers. That's a big sign that your defense is having a tough time. Your quarterback does that well, throws for over 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, and your defense can't hold him. Chase Brown and Zach Moss had pretty good tandem on the ground. Chase Brown went 7 for 62. Zach Moss went 12 carries for 58 yards and a rushing touchdown. Also had 5 receptions and 39 yards. Jamar Chase finally had a great game. It's about damn time. 6 receptions for 118 yards and 2 touchdowns. Andre Yoshivas, I think I'm pronouncing that name right. I hope you'll be hearing that name more because he's performing as a third-choice receiver, probably moving up into wide receiver 2 for this Bengals team. He went 5 receptions for 52 yards and a touchdown. A great goal line snag for him, able to get the ball over the plane. To break the plane for his touchdown catch. And T. Higgins also had 3 receptions for 39 yards. So those are my surprises of the week. The Commanders beat the Bengals in their house on Monday night. Panthers finally get a win against the Raiders, 36-22. And the Vikings are really showing out. I think they're going to be a contender. They beat the Texans 34-7. And also the Texans, I think they're going to be a contender as well. This was just a tough game against a tough defense. Moving into the recap of the picks. I will tell you right now, it was not a great weekend. First off, for my Sunday NFL picks, we had CD Lamb higher than 0.5 total yards. It was a promo pick. He only got 27 total yards, but obviously that's higher than 1, or that's 1 or more. Pretty much got lucky on that promo pick. If I didn't have that promo pick, this would have been a clean sweep on this slate. Going 0 for 4, but I went 1 for 4. Jerome Ford, I picked him higher than 51.5 rushing yards. He got 37 rushing yards, so that's a no. That was not a hit. Devontae Adams higher than 0.5 rushing receiving touchdowns. He did not get a touchdown. And Gardner Minshew higher than 219.5 passing yards. He almost hit it. He needed 6 more yards. He had 214 passing yards. So unfortunately there, we did not hit I did a flex on this, so we did not hit the 3-pick minimum to get rewarded on this. So that's unfortunate. But moving into Monday night, the Monday night NFL pick recap here. I mentioned this prior when we were talking about the Commanders, but I picked Brian Robinson Jr. higher than 51.5 rushing yards. That did not hit. He had 33 rushing yards. Zach Moss higher than 51.5 rushing yards. Yes, he did hit. He had 58 rushing yards. Like I said, him and Chase Brown had a great game on the ground. James Cook, I had him higher than a 14.5-yard longest rush. He did not hit that. He needed 2 more yards on a longest rush. He had a 13-yard longest rush. And Josh Allen, lower on 0.5 interceptions. Yes, he did not throw an interception, so that was fantastic. Also, I think I have to mention the Bills absolutely annihilated the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jaguars are horrible. Jaguars are so bad. The Bills, again, have a dynamic offense. I think the thing that's going for them is everyone knows that they can run the ball, but it's not like they're only running the ball through one person with James Cook. Josh Allen also, as he's proven, he can run the ball all the time. So they had an amazing game. The Bills absolutely trumped the Jacksonville Jaguars. But I didn't really recap. That wasn't really a surprise. I didn't think the Jaguars were going to perform that well. So I did not. That's why I didn't cover that in this. So moving into the final segment of the episode, we have some Thursday night football picks of interest. I'm switching this segment into picks of interest rather than concrete picks. Like I mentioned in the start of this episode, if you stay up to date with the Instagram and on YouTube, the short form section, short form content, so reels on Instagram and shorts on YouTube, that's where I will be posting a lot of the picks updates, the picks that I will be putting in, and also the recaps in the following week. So like for this week, if you follow on Instagram, you'll see the recaps of the Sunday and Monday picks. And then you'll also be able to get my Thursday picks and recap of Thursday picks on Friday. So there you go. Anyways, my picks of interest for the Thursday night matchup between the Dallas Cowboys and the New York Giants in New Jersey. First off, I have Dak Prescott higher than 266.5 passing yards, and also Dak Prescott higher than 1.5 passing TDs. Dallas is averaging 41.7 passes per game with a 60% completion percentage. Dak is just throwing the ball for fun. They aren't really running the ball that much. And New York Giants' defense is averaging, allowing a 70% opponent completion percentage with 6.2 yards per pass. So that's my reasoning behind there. Dak Prescott higher on both of his yards and passing touchdowns. That's what I'm kind of looking at. if those projections switch up, if that goes any higher than 266.5, I will really reconsider that. But I'm pretty strong that he'll get 2 passing touchdowns at least, maybe 3. The New York Giants defense is just not the best. So yeah. Second, or my third kind of pick of interest. This one, I always end up picking a picker on Thursday and Monday nights. Most of the time it hits, but Brandon Aubrey is having an amazing season this year. So I'm picking Brandon Aubrey higher than 1.5 field goals made. I will most likely stick with this, depending on how Dak Prescott's lines do. If his yards go up for his higher for my higher pick, I will probably pick Brandon Aubrey higher on 1.5 field goals made. But yes, so I am expecting the Giants or the Cowboys to bounce back against the Giants this Thursday night. So yes. Fourthly, I have Ezekiel Elliott higher than 29.5 rushing yards. My reasoning behind this is the New York Giants defense gave up 171 rushing yards to Washington's running backs and 111 rushing yards to Minnesota's running backs. I'm taking that Cleveland game out of there because Cleveland is absolutely shit, and I think the Panthers would be able to beat Cleveland, so that just tells you how fucking bad the Cleveland Browns are. But specifically to running backs, they gave up 171 rushing yards to Washington's running backs. We saw how they performed against the Bengals last night. A little questionable. And they also gave up 111 yards to Minnesota's running backs, mainly Aaron Jones. So that's my rationale there. I think Zeke will get 29.5 rushing yards. I think that's a fairly easy line to pick. I probably should cash this in right now because that line will probably go up. If it goes over 35, I don't think I'm going to take it. But we'll see how that goes there. Second to last, I got Daniel Jones higher than 0.5 passing TDs. In the last 2 games, he's had 2 passing touchdowns in each of the last 2 games. And finally, him and Neighbors seem like they're getting on the same page. They're completing a lot of passes. And also, the reason I'm picking Daniel Jones to throw a touchdown is because my last pick, Devin Singletary higher than 60.5 rushing yards. I'm picking this because Dallas's defense is absolutely horrid against the rush. They rank 28th or lowest in all rush defense ranks across the league so far through 3 games. They're 32nd in yards per game, 32nd in touchdowns per game, 28th in rushes per game, 32nd against yards per rush, and 30th in opponent's rush play percentage. So that means Dallas is lining up on the defensive line, and people are absolutely shoving it down their throat through the run. That's why I'm picking Devin Singletary, because if they establish the run, if Devin Singletary is able to have a great game, that means it'll free up Daniel Jones to be able to pick and poke at their secondary, be able to throw some crossers, be able to throw some play action in there. It'll be okay. So those are my picks of interest. They are down below right here, scrolling across the screen if you need a little bit of refresher. For Thursday night, the recap of these will be on my Instagram or on the Only the Over Instagram and YouTube channel going on Friday, but also Saturday morning. Another episode will be out, and I'll go over the recap on those as well. So anyways, thank you for tuning in to Only the Over. I'm excited for Week 4 of the NFL season. Week 3 showed that the NFL is a little bit drunk, so that's fantastic. But yeah, we'll see how all of this goes. We'll see how Week 4 kind of pans out. I haven't really looked into the weekend matchups yet, but the Thursday night game, I'm expecting the Cowboys to absolutely rout the Giants at home. The Giants had a stinker at home in their first game of the season. I believe it was their first game of the season, but so they're going to be back at home with the Giants coming in wanting to prove, or with the Cowboys coming in wanting to prove something. So yeah, thank you for tuning in to episode 3 of Only the Over. Stay tuned. On Saturday morning, episode 4 will be coming out, and we'll be able to recap the Thursday night picks. And also, I'll probably be able to tell you my Sunday picks. Usually the slates are pretty solid by Saturday morning, so we should be good to go. All right, take it easy. We'll see you next time.